All right. Well, happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to the next level presented by Pathstone and the Small Business Education Institute. And we are sponsored today by KeyBank, our wonderful partners at KeyBank. We want to thank them for allowing us to bring this series to you and allowing us to continue to educate our community on how to be a better business owner, how to start your own business, and how to grow it so we can continue to improve our own lives and the lives of our community and our neighbors. So this is week number 4. For those of you keeping count, we are week number 4 of a 12-week workshop series here. And today we're going to be talking about your marketing. And Mr. Mike Mccarley is here today to continue this discussion into business ownership and operating a business. And today we're going to be talking about the marketing aspect of that. So to make sure we get to Mr. Mccarley as quickly as possible so he can get on with the nuts and bolts of this and the fun stuff, I'm going to get through some of these normal rules of engagement here and continue the welcome. So those of you who have been here before, you know some of the basic rules of engagement about using the chat feature. The best way to interact with us is to use the chat feature. If you have questions, comments, concerns, need a little clarification, please use the chat feature. We have several members from the Pathstone team, as well as Mr. Mccarley, who monitor that chat, and we are able to make sure we have a record of all your questions. That way we can make sure that everybody's questions get answered and that everybody is taken into consideration for clarification, and we get their comments. So please use that. If you're not comfortable using the chat, we invite you to come off of mute and talk to us directly. Talk to us out loud. We'd love to hear from you. We don't want any kind of barrier between you and the information. So please let us know how we can break those barriers down. If you have any questions, come off mute, use your mic, and talk to us. The best way to do it is with a headset. If you have a headset, it cuts down on a lot of that background noise and static. It limits any kind of feedback that may happen. Sometimes if you have the microphone and your speakers going at the same time, there's a little bit of feedback. So if you can use a headset or a microphone, that always helps. One thing to keep in mind is if you can make sure, and we do a pretty good job of this every week, stay muted if you're not talking to us. That ensures that, again, there's no static or background noise, and any conversations you're having outside of the class aren't heard by the rest of the class. So that helps everybody, including you. So those are the real rules of engagement. The number one rule is to engage. Be engaged with us. Be engaged with your classmates. Be engaged with Mr. Mccarley. We want to hear from you. This is your time. This is your hour and a half every week to come here and be in this space just for you. And we want to help you get as much out of this as possible. So a few announcements before we get into the introductions here. The final week of Tech Talks is this week, this Wednesday, from 12 to 1:30, right here on Zoom. We're going to be talking about content management with Mike Warren. So come and join us for the final installation of Tech Talks this week. We are excited to have you. It's been a great series. We're wrapping that up. All the previous classes in that series are available on YouTube, on our Biz Up Buffalo YouTube page. We'll make those available to you both in the chat and through email. So you'll have those. You'll have the link to access those here shortly. If you want to go back and look at ways to use technology to grow, run, and start your business, those are available. The next level, virtual workshop series, what we're doing right now, what you're in your seat looking at right now. Next week, week 5, same time, same bat time, same bat channel, 12 to 1:30. We're going to be here for week 5 next week. And we actually just wrapped up our small business forum this past Friday. That is going to be available on YouTube for anybody who wants to view it now after the fact. But anybody who is interested in nonprofits, maybe starting a nonprofit, being part of a nonprofit, that YouTube video is going to be available. We had an incredible panel, an incredible forum this past Friday, and we are going to make that video available to you for anybody who wants to view that and maybe get a little more insight into what it takes to plan, start, run, and grow a nonprofit, and maybe what you could do as a for-profit to also be mission-based and to serve your community and to serve a greater cause than what you have there just internally. So before we get into week 4, I'm going to hand it over to Jahida. One thing we like to do is give a few people a chance every week to introduce themselves, their business, and what they're hoping to get out of the next level workshop series. So I'm going to hand it over to Jahida. Anybody who doesn't want to speak or doesn't get a chance to speak, please go ahead right now and put in your name, your business name, and what your business does, and then even what you're hoping to get out of the next level, because we want to know, and your classmates want to know. Everybody here, most of you have been through other Pathstone workshops, so you know that it's there's a bit of a family feel, and there's definitely a community that we create here, and we want to add to that. So tell us in the chat who you are, what your business is, and what you do. But right now I'm going to hand it over to Jahida to call on a few people and let them introduce themselves to the class. Jahida?
All right, thank you so much, Adam. Welcome, everyone. So I hope, this isn't like good cop, bad cop, where I end up being the one calling on people, so please don't hate me. All right, let's see who we can choose today. We have Miss Cheryl Warren. Can you unmute yourself and tell us about your business? Okay. All right. So thank you, Cheryl, at least for sending me a message in the chat. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So Mr. Kevin Graham, can you please unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, my name is Kevin Graham. I'm here in Rochester. My business is a portable video and audio production company. We're looking at just coming and looking at focusing on small businesses and individuals who want to record either small commercials or YouTube presentations or seminars.
Awesome. That's great, particularly now that everything is virtual, right? So make sure to put your information in the chat, please. Folks, that's what the chat's for. You never know where you're going to find someone that you may be able to use, at a later point. Thank you so much. All right, let's have another person. Mr. Eric Tarver, would you like to mute yourself and tell everyone about your business?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hi, my business isn't actually up and running, but I could tell you a little bit about it.
Okay, that's fine.
The name of my business is AquaSave. We're a storm water management company. And what we primarily would be focusing on is mitigating combined sewer overflows, protecting water resources that we have in Western New York, and also using that water for harvesting for gardens and hydroelectricity.
Okay, awesome. And so like your main market is, I guess, is Buffalo a good area for your business? Oh, I think you're frozen. Eric, you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, where did I leave off? What was the last thing I said?
I have a terrible memory. I was asking about, is Buffalo a good market for the type of work that you're doing?
Yes, it's an excellent market. In fact, it couldn't be any better.
Okay, awesome. All right, sweet. So we are happy to have you and hope you are enjoying this entire series. Thank you for your participation.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, no problem. And we're actually going to call on Taylor Holsby. She's actually part of the Pathstone team, but she's going to tell us a little bit about what she does when she's not at Pathstone.
Taylor, hello. I thought you could talk about the nonprofit you're a part of.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a part of a nonprofit called Kirby's Corner. We are a nonprofit that focuses on mostly minorities with disabilities. And what we try to do in Buffalo is try to find the services for certain families to make sure that they are very well taken care of. I am a data analyst for that board, and it is Kirby's Corner. So if you guys would like to keep up to date with us, we do have an Instagram page that is Kirby's Corner Incorporated. And we also have a Facebook page that is Kirby's Corner Incorporated. So thank you for that, Adam and Yahida.
No problem. Thank you so much, Taylor. If you could go ahead and put the handles in the chat, that way, people can go ahead and check that out on Instagram and just, keep up to date with what you guys are doing.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. So I will go ahead and turn it back over to Adam. Folks, again, just keep putting your information in the chat. Like I said, you never really know who you're going to run into. That could possibly, help you later on, or maybe you could be of some help to, someone. Again, you never really know. So keep networking. If there's anyone that would like to maybe be called on for the next session, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. And I appreciate everyone participating today. Enjoy the rest of the session.
Jahida, thank you so much for calling on folks, and everybody who got to speak. Thank you so much for sharing and being here today. And if you guys want to talk next week, tell us in the chat, and we will make sure we get to you next week. We will get on that, and you will be number 1 or number 2 next week. So, but now we've gone through introductions. We know each other. We know everybody. And now it is time for me to introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Michael Mccarley, to teach us about your marketing here in Next Level. Mr. Mccarley, I'm going to hand over presenting powers to you and let you come off mute there, and you can run the show, sir.
Oh, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Johanna. Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you again on this Monday morning. It's a little overcast, but hey, we're Western New Yorkers, most of us. Those folks out of Rochester, I know it must be about 75, 80 degrees there. If that's not correct, please correct me. But it's good to see everyone. So we're going to have an interesting conversation today. One of the things that has happened in the last couple of weeks, I've actually tried to share with you all particular components of dealing with the business in and of itself, especially, beyond, just writing a business plan, those things that actually engage you and require you to think about not only what's going on, but why it's going on, why you're doing what you're doing, who you're actually speaking with, to make yourself much, much better. Can everybody see my screen by chance? You should actually have 4 small icons. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things that I find probably most interesting.
Hey, Mike, I don't want to cut you off. We can see the PowerPoint dashboard. We can't see presentation mode or anything.
Oh no, that's fine. I just want to make sure you could at least see the dashboard. Everybody sees it in presentation mode right now.
Perfect.
So one of the things that we deal with here is, again, we've had our wonderful, bright and sunny morning. The beginning of what went on, we had a conversation about the story. One of the things I am going to mention to individuals, I had a colleague who was actually on one of the sessions, and they were a little concerned. Now, I'm going to make this comment actually out of respect because he's a major contractor out of Western New York, and he was kind of interested to see what we were doing here. And one of the things that he made a comment about was he noticed how many people were not actually showing their faces in these presentations. So I just want to share with you guys, a lot of times if we get buyers, if we have other vendors, sometimes it's nice. I mean, there's really no such thing as a bad hair day, but it would be really nice if you could actually show your face once in a while to the individual so folks know who you are, but also that those individuals that function as buyers could in fact see who they're actually dealing with. So again, I just thought I would actually share that with you. Now, we started talking about numbers, the one dreaded effect, and a lot of, unfortunately, my small business people that I deal with are not necessarily jumping up and down about, but they deal with it. They do what they need to do to become who they are. But then this particular week, and to possibly answer a couple of questions that actually occurred last week, I'm going to give you what I call part 2 of the numbers. I'm actually going to go over another segment associated with the numbers themselves, as well as we're going to begin to talk about marketing. And marketing, okay, Lamar. And marketing is not so much, you know, the establishment of a website, although those individuals that have participated actually in Tech Talks, I'm glad to see your name show up. But you really might want to consider getting a website, even if it's solely a landing page, so that individuals can potentially get a hold of you. The marketing I'm actually going to start talking about today is what I call the 3% rule. And as we go further on, I'll explain what I'm actually referring to. So for everybody that's on, so that I know that you're hearing me, that you're participating, you're looking at your screen, give me a thumbs up, please, in your reactions, or at least to put "I'm here" in the chat box. And Adam, I'm going to ask your help with regard to the chat box.
You got it.
I got a lot of thumbs up I'm seeing. That's good. I got a couple people identifying that they're actually here. Cool. So, thank you for folks that are letting me know that they're actually here. Hopefully I can get some more individuals to actually participate. So what I go through every week, of course, is where do you stand mentally, physically, financially, spiritually. These are rated in each particular category from 1 to 10. 1, the world is coming to an end. 10, you're doing backflips as you did this morning when you rose out of bed. I want people to actually be honest in this particular segment, because this is more for your benefit than anything else. But you can kind of gauge where you're at. You can gauge the change which is actually occurring. If you, and don't get me wrong, it's not always going to be progressively forward. Sometimes you may actually have a bad week when this is done. But at minimum, I think you should do this once a week. You can do it a little more. I don't necessarily see it as being effective once a day, but ultimately, you should be able to do this once a month. And you want to do it like this because you want to know where you are. And if you happen to be falling a little short in a couple areas, and again, unless I've got a bunch of multimillionaires and everybody's kind of hiding out on the channel here, I suspect that the financial component for a lot of people is actually going to be under 8. And that's fine. But you want to be able to move forward. And the only way you're able to move forward is to be able to identify, quite honestly, where you are, where you started, and where you potentially end up. And for those individuals that are actually keeping a record for themselves, I'm going to ask you guys actually in week 12, how many of you have actually seen a change? And there's going to be 2 changes. Have you seen a major change in any of the singular categories where the number may have started out lower and has actually increased? And then I want to see if there has been a change in the overall total number with those 4 categories actually added up since the beginning of the series. So last week, we talked about the pitch. Yahida is actually being enormously generous because one of the things I would really like to see people do is when they're actually talking about their businesses and they're introducing themselves, I want you guys to use that format I kind of gave you guys about your pitch. You know, who you are, first name and last name, what position you actually hold in the particular company, the name of the company. How did you actually start the business, or why was the business started? And it should be the fact that you've observed something that was a necessity. What is a solution that you actually have? How is that solution possibly applied? And most interestingly, what is the result? What does the client actually feel about the services that you've actually provided? Because this gets individuals into a gear that you don't have to think about what it is you actually do. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Someone asks you, what do you do for a business? And I will tell you from a buyer's perspective, one of the things that happens is most buyers are turned off because that conversation is way too long. If you follow the model that existed with regard to the pitch itself, you will notice that you can do an introduction, quite honestly, in 30 seconds or less. Okay, 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm gonna get you to change that, Johanna. I want these folks in 30 seconds. And then in our particular initial presentation, there are, and I believe she actually has sent out some information. It's just the 5 sheets in and of itself in a PDF form. You can print it off if you have that ability, or like I say, you can write this stuff out and use it as a guideline. But I really would like to hear more people using that particular pitch platform, because there is actually a second part to it. And that second part actually expands the ability, because we pull out certain sections, and I'm actually going to really kind of hit people with, you know, different components that exist of the presentation pitch. Because I may not ask, why did you start the business? What did you observe? I might just ask, what is the service? What is your solution? What is the problem you saw? And call it a day. You have to learn to be flexible also with that presentation. It can be flipped around. And then we talked about the numbers, of course. We talked about expenses, startup costs, sources in use that you don't see as often, okay, but you do see if you're looking at a cash flow statement. And most interestingly is anybody is applying for a loan, source and use is enormously important. Or if you're looking for investments from somebody else, you also are really going to talk about, you know, the money that I'm taking in as a part of this investment, this is what we're kind of intending on using it for. And of course, before success. Because next week, we're actually going to present the success formula. Before success, however, really gives you an idea of where you're at. And a part of today's presentation, before success, is also going to become very, very important. And I will actually point that out as we go through the slides. So this particular week, again, I'm going to go over a little bit what I call the ordinary calculations, which was the old way, versus before success. So can everybody see my screen, please? Give me a thumbs up. Let us know in the chat. Okay, getting a couple of thumbs up. How are we doing as far as the chat's concerned, Adam? I've got 23 people, and I'm seeing like 5 or 6 notifications. Come on, people.
Yeah, I've got
I want to
one.
make sure
in the
everybody
chat.
can see my screen. Okay, got a couple more thumbs that popped up. Okay, I want to make sure people can actually see my screen. All right.
There we go. Get it. Another one.
Okay. If people remember, one of the things that I said and talked about last week was the before success formula is your business expenses time a growth multiplier plus the cost of goods sold. What I've also done in this particular presentation is I'm going to add a couple of notes. that I want people to pay attention to, as well as some of the numbers, because I'm going to carry them over in a lot of the presentations so that you can see the connectability for what's actually being done. This number, 7,300, 4710, 47,490. Do people actually remember where these numbers came from? Give me a thumbs up. Mark in the chat if you happen to remember. I'll give you a couple seconds to do this. Okay, I got a couple thumbs up. Come on now, I should have at least 10 or 15 people that remember where part of this came from. And if you didn't, I'm going to tell you. This is a number that was a part of an income statement I showed last week of the business's expenses. This 4,700 was the cost of goods that also showed up on that same statement. This 47,490 is a figure that I used in doing the comparison between the old way and before success. You'll notice in this particular slide, you see the 47,490, which is a part of total revenues. The cost of goods, you'll notice, was 4710. And actually, in this particular page, in the before success, you will notice the 7,300. Now, I'm going to go back here a little bit. Someone had asked a question about what the 5.86 actually stood for, and I mentioned it. It actually stands for 3 different things. That number is a composite between Murphy's Law, anything that can happen, that will happen, and normally when it happens to us as micro business owners, it comes out of our pockets. Taxes. Hey, it's nice to have a little assistance from the individuals you're buying from to actually help you pay for those income taxes that you have to pay to your government. But the most important piece, and it's a little enlarged here, quite honestly, is growth. If a business does not grow, a business dies. It's just that simple. So again, when I actually did the comparison between the ordinary calculations and before success, the old way that people used to do stuff, and I want you just to really kind of pay attention to this, the assumption based on however they figured it out, that they needed $12,000 a month to actually cover this cost of goods sold here, which gave them a remainder of $72.91. And then if you continue it through, the owner was taking $3,000 out of the business. Your sales and general administration, that's what this stands for, is $4,300. And it gave you operating expenses of $7,300. Now, $72.91, which is your gross profit, minus the $7,300, which has been identified here, gives you a negative number. Means you're $9 short. Because you're in the negative, normally there are no taxes which are applied traditionally. And so your net income after taxes still is 0 because you were in the negative. And actually, I just noticed something which is in error here, but I'm gonna leave it alone for now. If you take a look at before success based on the formula here, 7,300 times 5.86 plus 4.710 ultimately gives you 47,490. That's where this number came from the assumed revenue. This is a goal, and you need to keep that in mind. It is a goal. This is what you want to try to achieve. Can you do it? It's based on a couple of interesting factors. One of which is how you actually market your business. The other way is how you've actually determined whether or not you have a market to actually satisfy this particular number. And that's part of what we're going to go over today. Your 4,700 cost of goods sold is at 40%. Cost of goods sold will always increase. So this was 12, this is 4,700. We jumped to 47,490. So this is also going to increase to 18, almost 19 grand. So your 47 minus your 28, minus your 18, it gives you 28 gross profit. But now look what happens. Owner's compensation and sales and general administration have not changed. They're still 7,300. But now the net income is 21,194. And now everybody's all sad because I've made some money. Darn shucks, I got to pay taxes. Don't worry about it. Taxes are a cost of doing business. And I really wish a lot of people would really get to that mindset. Don't worry about taxes, because this comes out to be the reality. If you're actually paying taxes, that means you're making money, okay? Keep that in mind. Stop this madness. Oh, I'm making money, I got to pay taxes. Oh, sadness and sadness. No, you're making money. That's a good thing. But you will now notice that your net income after taxes is still 14, almost 15 grand. But why is this important? And this is something that will come up actually in the success formula that you learn next week. You paid your taxes. Again, we had 14, but there's an aspect of retirement. For those of you who do not know and who may not have been in attendance last week, if you happen to be a DBA, you have to think about the creation of retirement, because you're actually not paying into the traditional retirement system anymore as a business owner. You have to find other ways to potentially do that. And one of the other ways is if you become an LLC, you become an employee of your company, and so you're going to pay taxes that way, just as if you were part of C Corp or a subchapter S corporation. But what's probably most interesting, and this is another component of COVID, a lot of things were taught incorrectly to people. They were shown inappropriately to people. And the reality was most minorities in business really had no idea or thought process about what retirement actually is. And retirement, this particular number, you notice, does it look familiar? It matches owner's compensation. And the assumption under determining what you're trying to generate overall in revenues to cover not only what I'm taking out to live today, but what I potentially am going to need tomorrow. And when, your compensation changes, so should your retirement. But you will notice that in the before success formulation, you now have 11 grand, almost 12 grand left over to do what? To carry it over into the next year. Actually, these figures are monthly figures, by the way. So anybody that suddenly wants to look like a deer in headlights, you can. But this is to be carried over. This cash available is a part of what becomes your cash flow statement. Cash flow statement primarily means revenues, cost of goods, minus expenses, minus other items, and whatever's left over carries into the next month, the next year, as money to start out with, and the cycle again continues again. What are the revenues? What are the costs of goods? What are my expenses? What am I left over with? Let me carry it into the next month. In a cash flow statement, and I'm not sure I'm going to do one, at least like I would want to, but in a cash flow statement, if you ever have a zero, you don't have any money to carry over into the next month. Lamar, yeah, that's an interesting point. That's why I made the comment that these numbers that I originally put together were monthly numbers. Retiring on $3,000 a year, but hey, retirement on $3,000 a year, which actually came from your business, didn't necessarily mean for the additional monies that you were putting to the side because maybe you decided to sell the business for, $7 to $8 million. By that time, it would only probably be worth about 900,000, but inflation chews away at what we have. The value of the dollar constantly is decreasing. So we have to really pay attention to not only how much money are we generating for the business really overall, but what kind of future do we want to have for ourselves and for the business? So next item up for bid, and this is to address one of the comments that came up about taxes. You will notice in week one, I believe it was, I talked about Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, and there were some classifications that existed with regard to the tax impact that you might have. There's also another component which is classified as poor. Poor right now really technically is anything less than, I think it's like $42,000 a year. So anybody that makes less than $42,000 a year at a job, you're poor. You might be able to pay some rent, buy some food, buy some oodles and noodles and stuff, but the reality gets to be you're classified as poor based on the overall scheme of money that actually runs the country. 47, you're paying 18, almost 19 in taxes, you're taking home 28,000. Now, a lot of people be pretty happy about that. Middle class, however, you notice, if you happen to be self-employed, here you have a job, you're an employee. This middle class classification I put in place is assuming that you're just self-employed. You don't even have another job, okay? And your bottom line comes out to be $21,194. I hope everybody remembers that this figure actually was based on the piece I just mentioned, which was revenues minus cost of goods minus expenses, leaves you $21,194. This is why this number is less than this. You're paying 12, you're taking home 8. But if you paid all of the other items that were associated to business, and I said I have 4 things. Can anybody happen to remember what the four uses of business funds actually are? Anybody? You can put them in the chat. Or you can unmute yourself and actually make a comment on it. What are the 4 uses of business money? Anybody? Don't all jump in at once. Come on, people. Anybody?
I'll go ahead. Go ahead. Did you want to go, Adam?
Sydney, go ahead. I'm cheating, so go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm not cheating. I had to think about it, but the last one is yourself, which I'm going to say first. Yourself, employee expenses, operating, and I want to say cost of goods, I think.
Got one wrong, and yeah, they're definitely out of order, but don't worry about it. Anybody else? Adam,
it's just
would you like to
from
take
memory.
a shot? Okay. Folks should have notes. What do we got here? What's in the chat? Anything useful?
How about employees, operational expense, operating debt, and yourself?
Yes, and yay, Shay, you got it correct.
I don't believe in debt. That's why I left it out.
Listen, you don't have to believe in debt. Trust me. Really quick story. People were bugging out about that, which was not new news, when they talked about Trump putting out his taxes, where he didn't pay taxes for many years. But what a lot of people don't know is they don't understand the tax law either. As a business owner, you need to understand what the tax law is based on the industry in which you operate in. And Donald happens to work in real estate. There's a bunch of stuff that goes on in real estate that allows you to actually have a loss in operating capital, but you're still getting paid. You have enormous debt, but you have all these people running around making a crap load of money. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to get started on the fact that someone beat me up. Oh, money's not everything. No, it's not. But it still helps feed me every once in a while and pay my mortgage. And I do need it. But we have to re-educate ourselves associated to what really matters in increasing not only our net worth personally, but the businesses in which we actually operate. I keep telling people, the only time you see a personal income statement, a personal financial statement, a lot of times if you're buying a house that's over $75,000, most times we don't ever really see it. And it's a comparison, but how much assets you have versus how much liability that you actually owe and own. And the greater number and the bottom line is your net worth. A lot of people are in negative net worth positions, which is one of the reasons why it's difficult sometimes in buying a home, by the way, people. So, again, middle class. This was net revenue after taxes or after operating expenses, excuse me. You pay 12 in taxes, you get 8. When you're rich, and the category which is missing here actually also is wealthy. We're not even talking about wealthy because wealthy pays 1% in tax and they don't pay it on income. They actually pay it on the dividends associated with the investment itself. But as a business owner, you might only pay 30% in taxes. As identified here, again, the net happened to be 21,194. I'm not separating the difference between this person who's self-employed and this person that happened to be rich. You know, these numbers aren't totally correct, but just to give you an idea. But I want you to look at the bottom line here. They're taking home or carrying over to the next month, the next year, whatever the case may be, 14 grand. Each one of these is different. The interesting question gets to be, which one would you choose? So put in the chat, which one of these categories would you rather be in? Would you rather be in the poor category? Would you rather be in the middle class category? Or would you rather be in the rich category? Everybody put a comment in the chat, please. For those of you who cannot, I understand, as I was just told. Yes, Sydney, that becomes the next question. I get a couple riches on here. Nobody wants to be a part of middle class. Nobody wants to be poor. Come on, I got 26 individuals on this webinar and I've gotten like 8, 9 traditional answers. Come on, people. Do you want to be poor, middle class, or rich? Okay. All right, we're going to end up getting a couple more. Now, if I were to ask you, do you want to be rich or do you think you might want to be wealthy? Put in the chat. Rich or wealthy? That's a good one, Adam. Getting a couple wealthies in here. I got a rich and a wealthy, 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 wealthy. Now, the statement I'm about to make is not to offend anybody, but I need to make this statement because I want some clarity in life. And the statement primarily is this. For those of you who want to be wealthy, then please start acting like it. Stop acting like you're poor, okay? You don't necessarily, there's a behavior and it's a mindset with regard to wealthy. It's not, I hit the lottery, ooh, and I went out and bought a brand new car and a house that's 15 times larger than I am. And, you know, and don't get me wrong, for my individuals who are from a Southern persuasion where people come up to you and say, oh, we've made it. We've made it. And you're like, you didn't do anything. That was my dollar that won that $1 million, okay? I did this. But we have and feel a responsibility to take care of everybody. There is a way to do it. There's a way to be philanthropic, but you have to be able to understand, to think What is it to be wealthy? Wealthy people, first of all, it's a legacy. It's handed down. The difference between wealthy people and rich people is the fact that wealthy individuals have a tendency of teaching their children about networking, the understanding and the importance of knowing other people in different circles. It's about an aspect of constant education. Rich individuals do not necessarily teach their children about networking or really teach them about money, which is one of the reasons why you have a greater generational loss with rich people than you do with wealthy. A wealthy individual will be driving around in an Audi that's 3 years old that looks brand new. And if it wasn't for the fact that you knew the subtle differences that existed in the vehicles by years, you'd never know that that vehicle was not brand new. The house that they moved into is not $1 million house necessarily. It might be several $100,000. But when they bought that house was probably like 50 or 60,000, and it happened to be in the area, and the house appreciated in value. These are the things that we have to really begin to take a look at and understand, especially if we're going to start running a business. Because there's enormous benefit to running a business. There really is. And I'm not talking just self-employed. I'm talking about you're hiring people. Okay, you're helping to take care of other people's families that also help to take care of the economy. You're looking forward, not backwards, to helping people grow, get an education, to better themselves. I got way too many people are mad that, oh, I brought this person under as an aide. I was trying to teach them something about business. They left me and took half of my clients. Well, applaud them, give them a hand, because you must have taught them something right. Okay, and just keep doing what you're doing. Okay, but be supportive of that. You know, Jewish people are enormously supportive. They may not like the people they're supporting. You know, two guys, one of the sons is opening the store. The other guy is kind of like, I really don't like your son the way he functions. But he's opening the store because it's going to benefit the community. And so therefore, I'm going to financially support this initially because it is going to help the community grow. We have to learn to work together. Okay, let me get off my soapbox here. But I hope folks actually get that. Yes, Lamar, hiring more people does help you make more money. But remember now, the primary piece is that you're providing a service. We are here to serve. The financial part just becomes an extreme benefit and the appreciation that exists because we've served well. Let me be very clear on that. So I don't want any ghosts coming in my window tonight. Yes, Shay. I'm looking forward to that. BE top 300. Okay, you can get on Forbes if you want to. That'll be interesting. All right, there we go. All right, so next on the agenda. Does anybody have any initial questions at this particular point? Did everybody at least kind of understand what I was trying to do last week? Yes, thumbs up. Give me thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, getting them thumbs up. I love it, I love it, I love it. For the rest of my people, thumbs up. Yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, thumbs up. Yes, thank you, Alfonso. Thumbs up. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have this interesting conversation about marketing. And the marketing that I'm actually talking about is something that is very rarely done well on people's business plans. The part I'm talking about is, what is your industry looking like? Is your market growing or not growing? Quite honestly, do you believe that there's a large enough marketplace for you to specify the market of how many people you actually can get to support the business? Let me put that another way. Are there enough people out there initially? And I'm speaking from a leverage standpoint, okay? I'm speaking from a loan standpoint. Whether you're being lent money or one of the things that you're actually looking to do is to gather investment. People want a return on their money, and your investors, quite honestly, want to get their money back. So with that said, the issue now gets to be, can you scale, which is something normally kind of identified for businesses which are larger. And scaling is significant, by the way. Anybody who's got an invention or they're talking about tech, normally you're talking about scaling up because you want to be able to get the largest impact without putting an entire life's worth of savings into the particular venture to get a return. Oh, this is a side note, by the way. How many people on here know what ROI stands for? Give me a thumbs up. ROI. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 out of 26 people. Is that about right? You can put in the chat too if you have to. If you didn't give me a thumbs up, put it on the chat. That's correct, Kevin. It is return on investment. So let me give you another quick short story. You're starting a business. You put money into that business. Had you ever actually thought about getting some of that money out? That is a return on investment. And it's not just the ability to pull money out of the business just because you have the money there to pull it out. It's about you're pulling the money out of the business and it's made money because of the business. And pulling that money out of the business is not going to affect the cash flow of the business. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So one of the things in most business plans, you talk about your marketplace, ooh, there are 50 million people. Yes, it's actually growing. And pretty much what they're talking about is what's going on nationally or what's going on regionally. Well, what the heck is going on in Western New York? What's going on in Buffalo specific? What's going on in Rochester? Okay. How many people do you think have an interest in what you're actually doing? This takes a little bit of research. Not much, but it takes a little bit of research. Your market segmentation normally comes about in 4 different ways. And really the quick end, when you talk about doing market segments, they're just common characteristics that just happen to be lumped together for marketing purposes. So just think about this. We're all being lumped together for some reason. We're lumped together because we're male. We're lumped together because we're female. We're lumped together because of what color we are, what race, how much money we make, what part of town we live in. Are we crazy or are we sane? You know, it depends on your particular definition. But most marketing professionals actually take a look at it because they need to understand the needs of the individual. Because again, what was part of your story? What did you observe? You observed a particular need. You want to satisfy that need. Satisfying that need means that you understand who needs what you have. Anybody that tells you as I provide services for everybody, please run quickly in the other direction because there is no way you can provide services for everybody. To be very niche, a lot of people say is not cool, but you know exactly what you're dealing with. And this is inclusive of, and I have to be clear on this, this is inclusive of how much revenue people make if who you're dealing with is actually the end user. Let's say that again. We need to be clear on who's paying us. If your end user happens to be the client in which you actually engage in, that's one thing. But if you're being paid by a third party to provide assistance for that particular client, that's a very different mentality. And most of us are not told about this. So you're getting paid, okay? But who you're looking at as your demographic is only based on who I'm serving, not necessarily who's paying me. So be real clear on that, because I've actually seen a couple people kind of get that mixed up. And it's unfortunate because they ended up losing a lot of money because they were concentrating on the wrong market, or more interestingly, the wrong end user. So you have 4 different aspects of market segmentation. Geographic, which is where I live. Demographic, which is more who I am. Psychographic, how do I think? I want everybody to get that. How do I think? And then behavioral, how do I do? Yeah, Lamar, that is correct. Lamar definitely put it, of course, when you have homeowners versus renter. That's correct, because if you're dealing with Section 8, your money is actually coming from Erie County. If you're dealing possibly with homeowners and you hold the mortgage, you also need to take a look at how they're actually broken up. Do they work? Do they not work? I don't know if a lot of people have had to pay attention to this lately or have friends that have discussed it, but if you look at a lot of rental properties now in places that we really kind of want to live in, one of the requirements is this whole thing of you have to be making 3 times what it costs for the monthly rent. And a lot of people think that that's wrong, but if you're a business person, I get it. Because if you're making 3 times what it costs for the rent, the assumption, which by the way is a bad thing to do, but the assumption is you have enough money to pay my rent and never have a problem with it. Now, if you can't pay my rent because you make 3 times as much money, that means there's some issues there, but hopefully I'm not going to have to run into it for 5 or 6 years when I end up having to throw you out. So next item, geographic, as just that, based on the geography, local, regional, national, sometimes international for some of you folks. Demographic, of course, is based on a lot of times gender, marital status, your income, what the occupation is, what ethnicity are you? This is the demographic. This is actually a special subcategory because individuals that are in retail in particular, this is a lot of times what they will use, as well as the psychographic. What are the traits? What are they buying? Am I buying trendy? Am I buying old? Am I buying antique? Am I buying new? I'm dealing with people that live strictly in condos. I'm dealing with people who live in houses, okay? And then the last, of course, is just behavioral. And I said crazy, but there are some individuals who will actually deal with individuals who are a little mentally unstable and they're making a lot of money on it. So don't get me wrong, but it is what it is. So does anybody have a question right now about the 4 segmentations? Anybody? You can unmute yourself or put a question in the box. Either I'm doing a fantastic job or I'm doing a really bad one. Is everybody good? Give me a thumbs up, please. Is everybody getting these concepts? Hello, Miss Leah. Thank you for making it in. How you doing, Linda?
Doing good. Hi.
Good. Is this good? Is everybody understanding what I'm saying? Thumbs up. If you got a question, ask me now, because I didn't see a whole lot of thumbs up and I don't see a whole lot of people marking in the chat that they understood exactly what I'm talking about here. Again, if there's some confusion with this, you can give me a call. 716-239-6417. That's the business number. Can you go back to the geo slide? Yes. Is this the slide we're talking about? Simply based on geography. And this geography, a lot of times, can in fact be, what is the zip code that I'm dealing with? I'm gonna put in the chat my number. Okay. So now let's get to the 3% rule. And this is going to take all of the time that I have left. So please, if you have questions, ask it. One of the things that's enormously frustrating when you are actually taking a look at business plans, a lot of times, like I said, they put in this thing about what the industry is going to do or what their marketplace is actually going to look like. And my thing is, my questions are always really simple, which is, how many people do you have? Or do you need to make the money you need to run the business? What I'm about to give you as an example was a real one. Like with the rest of the numbers that we learned last week and I just went over today, they're all going to become incorporated. There is a piece called proof of concept. This actually comes really from the tech environment, but it applies for, quite honestly, retail businesses, service businesses, any product-based business. You come to me looking for an investment, or you come to me looking for a loan. You tell me you've got the greatest product in the universe, the greatest cookie, my cakes are knocking the socks off of people. And I'm going to smile, and I'm going to say, prove it. Well, you notice my numbers say that there are 50 million people in the United States, and my market is actually growing by 15% a year. But what is your market actually doing in Western New York? Unless you're telling me that you're actually dealing with the rest of the world. What I'm about to show you is actually strictly based on non-internet sales, because there's a slightly different number for internet sales. But this is based on you're dealing with somebody in your area, and it could be regional. But your area is, I can pretty much reach out and touch the individuals who are my clients. I'm getting them, I'm communicating with them in some way, shape, or form. Lamar, I can't come to nobody for a loan. Only got fair credit. Don't worry about the issues of your credit pieces. By the time this 12 weeks is over, you will have a better idea of how to get a loan if you actually need to really get a loan. But more interestingly, how to possibly change your approach with even going for somebody to borrow money and or quote unquote get an investment. Oh, Danielle, sorry, you gotta go. Okay, we got you down for Arnett Cafe. Many blessings to you as well. All right. The proof of concept, there are several things you have to do. Determine whether you're using geographic demo, psycho, or the social demographics for your particular marketplace. This is who you're going after. In this example, I'm going to use demographics. You have to determine what part of that marketplace in the demographics is, quite honestly, accessible, that you can get to, okay? And how you kind of determine that, or one way to determine that, is your specific market. That's what SP stands for in this example. It's your specific market equals your marketplace demographics times 3%. Now, remember when I said, I don't care what you're selling, you're not selling it to everybody. And when asked about what your marketplace is, and Shane, I'm going to use you an example. Please forgive me. Yes, thou shalt be tortured. Shayna deals with expectant mothers or mothers that are lactating. Is that correct? Okay. Well, the entire population is not lactating. So therefore, what are you actually going to take a look at? Possibly females. And looking at females, how many of them are there in Western New York? And other than that, did you want individuals that fell into a particular category of being female? You want those that work? You want folks that don't work? Preferably those that work. But if they don't work, and I made this comment a little while ago, who's paying for the services? So you might have split service, what I call private and public. And you need to be clear on what your private and public are actually like. Internally, quite honestly, I would separate those particular numbers, by the way, because it also helps you. It's data that helps you to understand, who am I dealing with? Because I may need to find some real assistance if I'm dealing with individuals that are not working, but the problem has really gotten bad. So do I go to third-party insurance companies? Is there a way that somebody has a scholarship to help these particular mothers, or whatever the case may be? I will also say this. You need to be really clear, quite honestly, about who you're intending on serving. I have some individuals that we serve the community. That's what they want to do. Fine. But can the community provide an ability for you to live? We don't have to be massively wealthy at this point in time. We don't even have to be rich. But there has to be some aspect of comfort in our ability to live our particular lives. When you go into business, you're going into business to make money. You're not going into business to be a charitable cause. But if you're going in to be a charitable cause, then you need to look at that stuff which actually helps you to become a charitable cause. And there's a lot to do. The only difference between profits and not-for-profits, quite honestly, other than the tax implications, is the work you have to put in to get the funds to operate the business. I don't even talk about paying yourself to operate the business. And the last aspect of the relative determination, for the specific market, which is the SP on here, does your SP market generate the kind of revenues that are necessary to potentially cover what you have to offer? Now, I don't know if everybody understands the last piece that I put into play, but I'm about to show you. Proof of concept is a principle, realization of a certain method or idea in order to determine its feasibility. People want to know why they don't get loans? Because they can't show that their business is feasible. Now people are like, well, but I got a good business. I sell this and the other. I have people. I don't know how many of you are actually old enough to know about when young songsters and rappers were selling their tapes out of their trunks. The little cassette tapes, by the way, that's that little square thing, and it has this little tape in the middle, and it like spins around, okay? And then it went to DVDs, okay? Now you're taking the stuff off the internet. But the idea is, does it sell? Is there really an interested market there? And it was amazing because these individuals that sold out of their trunk proved the fact that there was a market, because they made money selling the stuff out of their trunk, minus the cost to produce the tapes or the DVDs. So let me show you the example, one of the examples in play. And I used the female example intentionally for Shayna. By the way, these numbers are not exact, so don't copy them down exactly. So therefore, okay. You're looking for Buffalo. Population about 280,000. This is Buffalo specific now. This is not including Niagara Falls, which is a part of what's called MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. The demographic type that you're actually, we're going to take demographics, but we're looking at a demographic type of females. So there are about 164,000 based on this particular piece, just females within this 280. But I'm going to look at people hopefully are making some money because I'm charging for my services. Well, they're about 64,000. Our previous example, 64,000 individuals. Looking for the specific marketplace, we take 64,000 and we multiply it by 3%, which comes up to 1920. So there are 1,920 females supposedly that I can get to reasonably, that would actually support the idea I have. I don't have to reach far. This is immediate. I'm not trying to take the entire quote unquote marketplace in hand. I'm looking at right now what I can deal with. And we can assume a lot of things, because we can assume that those 64,000 individuals who happen to make $40,000 in income potentially are mommies, to-be mommies, okay? Even if we cut that in half, which would make this number real interesting, but we'll go with our 1920. My specific market times the average cost per unit. My APPU equals prospective revenue. If I'm looking at, I have a market of 1,900 people. All I'm charging is $20 to provide my particular service. Okay? That's $38,000. Woohoo! Okay, you can jump up and down, Shay. It's okay. All right, we're making the bucks now. So, 38,000. But is that enough to cover what I need to have happen? Remember what our revenue goal was? 47,490. See, the more you go over this, the figures actually start to come back to you as to where they are, where they come from. Our proof of concept is only 38,400. I think we're a little short. Actually, I think we're a lot short by about $9,000. Again, remember, you notice on the bottom, this was based on 64,000 people. So what do? I have to figure out another way of calculating or looking for individuals that are part of my specific market, those that I'm actually trying to work with, that I'm actually trying to deal with. What do I do? What do I do? Shayna, any suggestions? No suggestions.
Come
on now.
I don't have anything right now.
All
I'm
right,
trying to figure it out. I'm looking at it.
Okay. We can't do anything about the general population, right? Would everybody also agree with that? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. Our demographic just happens to be, or demographic type happens to be females, which is important, like especially in Shayna's particular case. But one thing we can change is how much money these people are making. Yes, Kimberly, you could add a new product or services to capture more of the marketplace. But remember, I want you to, let's see, move to a different location. No, you can stay where you're at. What I want you guys to actually realize is I'm presenting this stuff to an individual who I want to support my particular dream, my idea. Nothing wrong with the dream. We just got to work on how it's executed. We know there are 128,000 females. What we have in this particular example happens to be those who are making 40 grand. But Sydney, she could include all of Western New York, but again, our concentration point was just the females, and there are only 128,000 in the market area that we get because she can get to them. I don't even want to go outside of that yet because she's got to travel. But that's a good point. Yes, you can increase the price was one of the suggestions that was put into play. Okay? But one of the other things also gets to be this. Maybe I want to increase the income just to see how many more people are actually there. Kimberly, thank you. So now let's revise it. Same information except for the fact our income is now 60,000 people, or $60,000, I'm sorry. Which rose it now to 82,000 individuals that are potential clients. How does this change the numbers? 82,000 times 3% is 2,460. 2,460 at $20 is now 49,200. What does that say?
Profit. Yep. Profit.
Oh my goodness, we have an overage. We have not so much profit in this case, but we have shown that all I'm looking for is 3% of the particular marketplace, a specific market that I'm in, my niche. And there are enough individuals based on that number that now I can also back up into a couple of other things because again, we're talking 2,400 people, which means if I'm spending 50% for marketing, then my marketing costs actually go up a little bit. So I go back and take a look at that number. But these are the things you look at. Lamar, come off of mute. And you have a question about the numbers?
Yes. Okay. So at 40,000, it was only a specific amount of people. So how, when it went up to well, that was 40,000 plus. So how, when it went to 60,000 plus, it was more people, more females that made 60,000 plus than 40,000 plus, because isn't 60,000 over 40,000? So how would you have more people?
Okay, because what you're looking at is the income range. And between $40,000 and $60,000, apparently there's, what is this number, 12,000 more? Is that what the difference in 82 and 64 is? No.
No, I was trying to figure out, because if it's 40,000, wouldn't that be the same amount? Like, when you decrease it in order to get more people to fall into that, or like, because it said 40,000 plus, so 60,000 will be included in that. So I'm figuring if you did it 60,000 first and then you did 40,000, would you have more people in there? Because they making, it's not like there's more people making more money right there. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I get what you're saying. This is what I want you to think about. There's 64,000 people. I believe that number is 64 I use. 64,000 people that made $40,000 or less, okay? When I increase the dollar amount, the 64,000 people are actually still there, but from 40 to 60,000, there are 18,000 more people who happen to make that money. We're looking at demographics, and the demographics is, in that spread, there are enough individuals that possibly fall into our demographic profile that allow me to actually make the money I need to make to justify what I'm doing.
No, I understand what you're saying, because the 40,000, okay, so you are including the people with the 40,000, but in the next slide, or the next slide over here, it says people make 40,000 plus at that bottom. And then at the next slide, where you did the 60,000, it said people making 60,000 plus. So I was like, how is more people making 60,000 plus than 40,000 plus?
Again, it's just a class of the demographics, okay? Just a class, because again, her target initially was 40,000 folk. 40,000 is a matter of income. She just picked that number, okay? Because the reality is, unfortunately, most lower middle class and lower class individuals definitely fall into under $40,000 a year. And I'm charging for my services. So because I'm charging for my services, whatever my research was, came up to show that people probably needed to make at least $40,000 in order to pay me my 20, 30, 40,000, or 20, 40, 20, 30 or $40, say an hour or a session or whatever the case may be. But there aren't enough individuals who are just making 40,000. So I want folks that are making 60,000. And that increase from $40,000 to $60,000 a year gave me 18 more people, 18,000 more folks that I could actually deal with. And as shown in this particular example, at 82,000 folks now, I have more people at the 3% that if I sell my products and service for $20, I'll make enough money to justify what I'm actually doing, because my original assumption was I needed 47,490. So I actually have an overage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understood that, but look all the way directly at the bottom right there. Move your phone right there where it says 60,000 plus. That had me confused, because the demographic said income 60,000 plus, and on the other one it said 40,000 plus. So it's like they fall in the same demographic then. Really?
Well, no, okay, and remember I said there was an error which is on here? That's right. One of the errors. The pluses should be removed, okay? The pluses should actually be removed.
That's what had me confused.
Okay, that's my bad. So everybody, the pluses actually in the particular example under the descriptions need to be moved. or removed, excuse me. And again, looking for more people overall can help, or increasing the prices because maybe she really isn't charging enough for the services that she's actually providing either. Okay, these are the things that we actually take a look at. But this is the stuff that we initially deal with to figure out how well does our particular idea work. I've got a shirt shop. I'm selling my shirt. I don't know if anybody remembers, and give me a thumbs up if you do. You used to be able to buy a t-shirt for like 10 bucks. Them suckers are $25, $30 now. This is the kind of stuff that we have to be aware of when we're actually taking a look at the stuff we do and where we're going. And so under the revised component, like I say, now we've justified the proof of concept. You're now showing that the idea is feasible. And that means if the idea is feasible, there isn't a banker I know who will sit around and argue with that particular fact. You're not trying to occupy the entire marketplace, but there are enough people out there that potentially can utilize the services of which I provide, and 3% is so small, nobody's actually going to pay attention. Ultimately, you want 1% of the marketplace, and that's the whole marketplace. So again, keep that in mind. So because I've now added that particular feature, are people beginning to see how this stuff begins to fit together if you didn't already know it? Give me a thumbs up, let me know. Where the rest of my thumbs up? Like I say, if there's some confusion to some of this stuff, you know, give me a call. We'll sit around and talk about it. I'll schedule up for a conversation. All right. So I want to thank you guys again for this particular week. I hope it wasn't too much. Next week is going to get to be more interesting because now we're going to talk about the success formula. And that's an add-on to before success, which will really give you an idea of how much money potentially you need to generate with regard to the business when you're presenting to other individuals, and quite honestly, when you're looking at it yourself. All right. So thank you very much, guys. Adam, it's back over to you.
All right. Wonderful. Mr. Mccarley, thank you, as always, for educating us and bringing us kind of these fresh topics, these new ways of looking at things. We have, you know, this is such an important week. You have to understand who you're serving and understand how well you have to serve them, and you know, to what degree you have to serve them so you can sustain your business and sustain your own life. And I know that week 5, what are we talking about next week, Mr. Mccarley? What's week 5?
Now we're going to talk about the success formula. And this isn't Damon John's success formula either. This is
it'll be great. And I've looked at the success formula stuff. I've been a student of that, so you guys are going to really enjoy it. And it's going to show you what you have to do to be successful, not to be, you know, just be cliche there, but it'll show you how to reach that success, and you will know your numbers. So you have a roadmap to get there. But let me share my screen with you guys here so we can get you back to work and wherever you're going here on time. But Mr. Mccarley, again, thank you for being our teacher through this. This is it's intense stuff, but we're all getting there together, and we're learning a lot. I know I'm learning a lot. So
I'm glad. Thank you again, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
So guys, like we do every week, we want to give you lunch one day this week on us. So in the chat, let us know where you want to go to eat. In Buffalo, we have Freddie J's Barbecue, and we also have Sunshine Vegan Eats here in Buffalo. So either one of those, totally opposite ends of the spectrum, but depending on what you're feeling like one day this week, please let us pay for your meal. Let us know in the chat where you want to go to eat, and we will send you that. For those of you in Rochester, we have El Pilon Criollo and the Arnett Cafe. Those are your 2 options if you want to either step out in Rochester if you're already there, or venture over to Rochester and have lunch or dinner one day on us, let us know in the chat where you want to go. We'll get those vouchers out to you later this week. I'll give it a couple more seconds so you guys can see those options there. Keep in mind that next week, next level is Monday, 12 to 1:30, same time, same place, right here. And Mr. Mccarley will be talking about the success formula. You guys have done the before success stuff now, and we are going to take what we've learned the last 4 weeks and jump into week 5 and learn even more and more and more as we go through. We're almost, next week will be almost at the halfway mark of the next level, but just keep on coming back, and you're going to be better for it, better business owners, more prepared business owners for it. You should also know that this Wednesday is the final Tech Talks of the year, final Tech Talks of this series. And we're going to be discussing content management with Mike Warren from View Signage there in Rochester. So join us for that. It's the last session. Like I said at the beginning of class today, we will have all sessions of all of our workshops available on YouTube. That includes Next Level and Tech Talks. It also includes the small business forums that we do. And we don't have one that we're ready to announce just yet. I'm sure we will here soon. But the most recent small business forum, which took place this past Friday on nonprofits being a vehicle for driving community health and wealth, is available on YouTube, or will be available on YouTube. You guys will have links to all of that in a follow-up email. So please check that out. If you have any questions on nonprofits or whether you should start one and how to keep your for-profit business in the same realm of economic injustice and social responsibility, things like that, making sure that your for-profit business has a cause that it's supporting if you want to do that. Other than that, guys, we're right on time here. We're just a couple minutes past time, but if you have no other questions or anything we can help you with, we will see you next week. If you have questions, or if you want to get a hold of us, you can get us at pecky@pathstone.org. A lot of you have our phone numbers. You can find us on the enterprisecenterinc.org, as well as visupbuffalo.org, and then on Facebook and Instagram. Please reach out. Let us know how we can help. And if there's nothing else, we will see you guys next Monday from 12 to 1:30.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.